Do you like art and pinup girls? Then this video was made for you because we are going to reveal everything about Zoe Mozert, who was a talented artist that used her own body for reference photos and illustrated realistic pinup girls, making her art appear on several Hollywood movie posters. Do you know that most people watching our channel aren't subscribed? We know you don't want to be one of those, so hit that subscribe button before we tell you everything and more about Zoe Mozert. The thing with the surname. Zoe's surname had 3 variations throughout her life, and only one was when she legally changed it herself. The original family name was Mozart, but her grandfather changed it to Moser when he immigrated to America. A lot of people in that time did this so that their surname would appear more American, and it would make them stand out less. A smart and convenient move. She was the firstborn of Fred and Jessie Moser, and in 1910 they moved to Beaver Dam City because her grandfather got a job as a pattern maker. They moved again just 4 years later because he got a chance to found his own company. In just 2 years, she got a brother and sister. Zoe wasn't the only one famous in her family, as her brother Bruce is known to be an innovator of various underwater photography techniques. Talk about a family full of talent. The prestigious boarding school. Zoe's family moved again in 1921, just a little outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, after her father sold his company and got a job in Scranton Stove Works, because he developed a new design for a stove vent. You can imagine that with her dad having a company, selling it, and being an inventor, that Zoe's family was taken care of financially. Because of that, her family was able to give Zoe the best education out there, enrolling her into a private boarding school for girls in Virginia. She finished high school in 1924 and went back to live with her family who still resided in Scranton. Zoe admired and showed interest in art since she was young. Her parents supported her no matter what she wanted to do, so she took art lessons in La France Art School. She was a schoolmate with a pulp fiction artist, John W. Scott. It's always interesting with artists that go to school together, as you never know if any will become a big name in the art community. Do you think Zoe and John knew they will both be written down in history? Advanced studies. Zoe was determined to learn as much as she could, so she attended Philadelphia Museum School of Industrial Art for 3 years, starting in 1925. In her last year, she studied under Thornton Oakley, who is a known artist for his work with graphite and oils. Here, Zoe studied alongside another one of the artists that established his name later on, H.J. Ward. Many assume that Zoe was one of the models that posed for Ward while he was working on some of his earlier works, because the woman on his portrait bears an uncanny resemblance of her. Studying art nowadays is already expensive as it is, so you can imagine how much money did it cost in the 20s to study it. Even though her family could provide for her, Mozert wanted to pay for her own studies, and she did so by posing for other artists and being a model. Beginning her career. Zoe wasted no time when she finished school and started working on her pieces and establishing her career at once. Her style is usually compared to that of Rolf Armstrong because just like him, Mozart uses pastels and went for bold color choices to create the women she illustrated. The main difference between her and Rolf is that Zoe wanted to make the women in her drawings look realistic and not blown out of proportions. She was known to draw the faces of her models so realistically that they could easily be recognized in her work. If that doesn't show that she is talented enough, she also portrayed the model's personality, that even a still pose could tell what type of girl she was drawing, which we can imagine couldn't be easy to make. The fabulous covers. You know how today, if you need a body reference, you can type what you need in Google, take a few photos to study, and draw from that? Well, Zoe didn't have it that easy, so she used her own body for references by looking at herself in the mirror or taking photographs of herself to get the pose she had in mind. How brilliant is that? In 1932, Zoe moved to New York to see if she can get any freelance work as an artist. She was specifically looking for work in the magazine industry, and when she got her first job, working for Bernard McFadden, she decided to give herself an artistic name, Zoe Mozert. She wanted to keep her family name, but she wanted her name to stand out, so she picked up a dictionary and went through the pages. Nothing seemed to stand out to her, so when she was on the last page, she saw the name Zoe, so she just went with that. In just 4 years, her work took off, as she worked for magazines like Smart Love Stories and Nightlife Tales. She got a full-time job at Fawcett Publications, but still worked as a freelancer on the side. This girl just didn't know how to stop drawing, and rightly so, because those freelance jobs got her artwork in Screen Stories and American Weekly, among other magazines. Working at Paramount. It was soon evident that with the amount of work she was getting, creating illustrations for magazines wouldn't suffice for Zoe anymore. Because she was making quite some money, she moved to Manhattan in 1937. Her work became known all around, and her style was so unique and stood out that she was hired by Paramount Pictures to do the poster for their movie, True Confession. where she painted the lead actress, Carole Lombard. Of course, by now, you probably know that she didn't stop there. Her work also appeared in various advertisement campaigns for companies like Dr. Pepper and Cool Cigarettes. These companies hired her to illustrate well-known movie stars that would promote their products. The Pin-Up Calendar. Not every artist can say that they got a contract with a company to work on something for 15 years. Mozert was lucky enough to sign a contract like that with Brown and Bigelow, where she was hired to draw pin-up girls for calendars. When she traveled to Buenos Aires in 1940, her passport still had her birth name on it. So when she raised enough money and moved to California in 1945, decided that it was time to legally change her name to Zoe Mozert. When she did that, her entire family did the same. If that doesn't say that they supported her and her work, then we don't know what does. Her work in Hollywood. We already said that Zoe worked on a poster for Paramount Pictures. Of course, her work in Hollywood wasn't finished with just that one job. Not only did she illustrate posters for Warner Brothers, but she also became their art advisor and painter. With how movie posters are made today, who else can say they have such an achievement? Zoe's work, however, wasn't only used for the posters, but could also be seen in the backgrounds in movies like Never Say Goodbye and Calendar Girl, making her a remarkable artist. Retirement and legacy. Even after her retirement in 1978, Zoe never stopped drawing. Instead, she had her work displayed in art galleries and made money by selling them. Her work was so prominent and unique that even today, just by looking at one of her art pieces, you can tell immediately that it was done by her. It's safe to say that Zoe Mozert has written her name in history as one of the most important artists of the previous century and is an inspiration to many aspiring artists that want their work to be featured in magazines. What do you think about Zoe and her work? Which of her pieces is your favorite? Comment down below and make sure to visit our channel to check out our other videos on people just as remarkable as Mozert.